Chapter 1. The Boy Who Never Stopped Talking. Ethan had always been loud in the way sunlight is loud. Too bright to ignore, impossible to stay mad at. He wasn't the best-looking guy in school, but he had a kind of confidence that made people think maybe he was. His grin was permanent, his jokes were mostly bad, and his grades were always perfect. It didn't seem fair. He played tennis, led group projects, and could make even the quietest teacher laugh. There was always a crowd around him, people who followed the sound of his voice like it was music. But that changed the year he met them. Hannah and Sophie. They arrived in the same middle school class one September morning and immediately seemed out of place. Not because they didn't fit in, but because they only fit with each other. Hannah was the outgoing one, quick to laugh, hair always perfect, the kind of girl who could talk to anyone but rarely wanted to. Sophie was the opposite. She was quiet, careful, almost too kind for her own good. Together, they were inseparable. To everyone else, they were a mystery. To Ethan, they were a challenge. He noticed them before they noticed him, and once he did, he couldn't stop. The way Hannah spoke for both of them, the way Sophie's gaze darted to the floor every time someone new approached, it was fascinating. So, in the way 12-year-olds make life-changing decisions without knowing it, Ethan swore he would befriend them both. Chapter 2. A Seat at the Table. The following year, they ended up in different homerooms. It shouldn't have mattered, but it did. Ethan grew taller, leaner, less like a kid and more like the kind of boy you'd see in a high school drama about tennis prodigies. Suddenly, people were looking at him differently, and he didn't quite know what to do with that. The girls, though, they stayed the same. Still side by side, still keeping to themselves. And then one day, Ethan did something that would make even his future self cringe. He picked up his lunch tray, walked past his usual crowd, and sat down at their table. He didn't say a word, didn't look up, just started eating like this was a completely normal social interaction between three people who had never exchanged more than 2 sentences. Hannah blinked at him. Sophie froze mid-bite. It was painfully quiet for about 30 seconds. Then Hannah said, flatly, "You're at the wrong table." Ethan nodded. "Yeah, I know." Then he kept eating. It was bold. Or stupid. Possibly both. But the next day, he did it again. And the next. And eventually, the weirdness wore off. He started chiming in on their conversations, laughing at their jokes, asking what shows they liked, and actually watching them so he could talk about them. By the end of 8th grade, somehow, the loudest boy in school and the 2 most private girls had become friends. Chapter 3. The Summer of Almost. That summer, the friendship deepened. Ethan invited them everywhere. Hikes, parks, late afternoon walks where the air smelled like cut grass, and something almost romantic, but not quite. They'd sit for hours, talking about nothing and everything. Hannah teased him relentlessly. Sophie mostly listened, but when she laughed, it made Ethan's stomach twist in unfamiliar ways. He liked them both at first. He was young and full of possibility, but Sophie's quiet charm crept up on him. When she talked, really talked, it felt like discovering a new language. The girls liked him too, though none of them said it out loud. Until one night, Hannah did. She told Sophie, nervously, that she liked Ethan. Expected Sophie to admit the same. But Sophie, after a long pause, shook her head. She said she didn't. She lied. Later, when she was alone, she cried. Then told herself it was fine. That Hannah deserved happiness. That some things are better swallowed whole than spoken. Hannah, for her part, knew Sophie was lying. But she ignored it. She told herself people move on. They were all wrong. Chapter 4. The Equation. High school hit like a reset button. New halls, new faces, same triangle. Ethan was busier than ever. Tennis tournaments, AP classes, but he still spent most of his free time with Hannah and Sophie. The 3 of them were a set. His teammates joked about it constantly. "Come on, man. Which one's your girlfriend?" "Both." Ethan would reply dryly, and they'd laugh. But privately, he wished it was just one. Sophie. Sophie, who always invited Hannah along when he asked to hang out. Sophie, who smiled politely but avoided being alone with him. Sophie, who was slowly driving him insane without meaning to. Then, in their second year, Hannah confessed. Through text. He didn't know how to respond. Because by then, he was sure. He loved Sophie. After 2 sleepless nights, he finally sent the message that would haunt him for years. "I like you too, but I also like Sophie." He spent the next 10 minutes lying face down on his bed, whispering, "Why am I like this?" into his pillow. When Hannah finally replied, she said, "Sophie doesn't like you." He believed her, and something in him hardened, hurt, ego, confusion all mixing into something toxic. He told himself he didn't care. Then he started dating Hannah. Out of anger, out of wanting to move on. It almost worked. Chapter 5, The Golden Couple. By junior year, Ethan and Hannah were the couple. The ones everyone knew. Perfect grades, perfect photos, perfect captions. Invite us to the wedding, people would joke. And for a while, it was real. Ethan did love her, deeply, in his own way. Sophie stayed on the sidelines, smiling through it. She'd wanted to be happy for them. But happiness, it turns out, doesn't like sharing space with heartbreak. Then came the party. Hannah got drunk. Sophie did too. Ethan stayed sober and drove them home. Somewhere between laughter and slurred confessions, Hannah mentioned, too casually, that Ethan had once liked Sophie and made her wait 2 days before saying yes. She laughed. No one else did. Sophie went silent, then started crying quietly in the back seat. Ethan saw it in the mirror and didn't know what to feel. Anger? Sadness? Something older, unhealed. The next day, he texted Hannah asking why Sophie cried. That's when Hannah admitted the truth, that Sophie had liked him, and she'd lied. It cracked something open inside him. Hannah noticed. The silence between them grew teeth. Her guilt turned into jealousy, and jealousy into paranoia. And that's when Liam entered the picture. Chapter 6, The Friend of a Friend. Liam was Ethan's tennis partner and his opposite in every way. Calm, composed, the kind of guy who never seemed to care if people liked him, which, of course, made everyone like him. When he messaged Hannah asking if Sophie liked anyone, Hannah felt a sharp irritation. Did everyone like Sophie? She told him she didn't know, but that he'd have a good chance. When he teased, "What makes you say that?" she replied without thinking, "Because you're hot." She regretted it immediately. Ethan saw the text, never mentioned it. His silence stung worse than yelling. Then Ethan left for a family trip that summer. Hannah's insecurities filled the space he left behind. When Liam messaged her, "You could be a model," she should have ignored it. Instead, she joked back, then replied again, then agreed to meet for coffee. It wasn't supposed to be anything, but sometimes nothing has momentum. Coffee became a walk. A walk became sitting in his car while it rained. When he kissed her, she didn't stop him. And just like that, she crossed a line she'd never thought she would. The next morning, she felt sick with guilt, deleted the messages, told herself Ethan probably still thought about Sophie, so maybe it was fair. Balance, she called it. But guilt doesn't care about symmetry. Chapter 7, The Silence Between Them. When senior year started, Ethan and Liam were back on the court together. Hannah hated every minute of it. She could feel Liam's gaze sometimes. And worse, she could feel Ethan noticing it. Eventually, he asked, "Did you know Liam before I introduced you?" She said no. Too fast. Later, he asked Liam. Liam told him everything. That evening, Ethan came to her house. He didn't look angry, just empty. Something happened with Liam over the summer. The pause was unbearable. Then Hannah broke. She cried, quietly at first, then harder. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen. I thought you didn't love me anymore." "You still look at her, Ethan." "I see it." He blinked slowly. "You cheated on me because you think I like Sophie?" She flinched at the word cheated. He didn't yell. He didn't need to. The calm in his voice was worse than anger. He left. She texted him all night. He didn't respond. When he finally did, the message was short. "I need time." He spent that time replaying everything. The trips, the laughter, the quiet moments that used to mean everything. And realized he still loved her. But love wasn't the same as trust. When they met again, he ended it. She didn't fight, just nodded. And in that small nod was everything they used to be. Chapter 8, The Unfinished Conversation. A few weeks later, Sophie texted him. "I heard about Hannah. I'm really sorry, Ethan." He stared at the screen for a while before replying. "You don't have to be." Then she sent, "You don't have to pretend you're fine either." It made him laugh. Not because it was funny, but because Sophie had always said things like that. Half serious, half accidentally hilarious. They started talking again. Slowly, carefully. Hannah saw them together once, sitting by the park fountain, talking quietly. No flirting, just peace. It hurt anyway. She texted Sophie, "Are you seeing him?" Sophie replied, No, we're just friends. It stayed that way the rest of senior year. Both of them pretending friendship was enough. Both knowing it wasn't. Chapter 9, The Summer Goodbye. Graduation came. The air was heavy with nostalgia and heat. Ethan had a tennis scholarship out of state. Sophie was staying local. Hannah was joining the army. It was the perfect time for closure or disaster. Ethan decided on the former. He started inviting Sophie out more, gifting small things, showing up at the park where they used to meet. One evening, sitting under the same tree where everything had begun, he asked quietly, "Remember that car ride? Why did you cry?" Sophie looked away. "Don't bring that up." He didn't listen. "I need to know." When she said nothing, he confessed. "Sophie, I loved you. Then I had to get over it. But I don't want to get over it a second time." She froze. Her face turned bright red. "I know you don't want to hurt Hannah," he added. "I'll understand if you say no." Instead, Sophie lunged forward and hugged him so tight he could barely breathe. "I'll be your girlfriend," she whispered. He laughed quietly, hugged her back. When she looked up, her old awkward look, the one he'd missed, he kissed her. It wasn't smooth. It wasn't cinematic. But it was real. They spent the night in his car, kissing between nervous laughter and silence. She was terrible at it. He didn't care. Epilogue, 10 years later. "Whatever you do, don't forget the beer," Ethan said into the phone. Yeah, I won't. Anything else?" Sophie replied. "Something sweet, maybe. Hannah and John are bringing dessert." "Okay, drive safe. I love you. I love you too." And somewhere in that ordinary exchange, between the errands and the echoes of everything that happened, was the quiet truth of growing up. We move on. We forgive. We laugh about things that once broke us. End.